Good evening, and welcome to all the wonderful women and men who are here this evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Commonwealth Club World Affairs, that's a mouthful, of California. And if you don't know it, this is actually the nation's oldest public affairs discussion forum. As your program host for today, we are pleased to welcome new members and those of you that are here for the first time. It is my honor to serve as your moderator for this program, presented in support of International Women's Month in association with the Northern California Women's Caucus for Art, known as NCWCA. My name is Debra Reabock. I'm a member of the club's Arts Forum, a San Francisco-based architectural photographer, photo philanthropist, and outreach chair for NCWCA. We have a 1-hour program including audience questions, answers, and the wrap-up conclusion. There should be some cards and pencils available for your questions, and the cards with the questions will be collected during the program. And I'd like to ask a couple people right up front from NCWCA, Marie and Teresa on the board, if you guys would help collect those questions. If you have a question, put it on your card and just raise the card and it'll be collected. Thank you guys for letting me put you on the spot. After the program, there will be a brief reception where we can actually continue the conversation. Please think about these 3 questions as we continue the conversation during the reception. 1, what resonated with you that you heard tonight? Another question, what kinds of actions are you willing to take? And then lastly, if you could do something now, what would it be? In recent months, I've often engaged in discussions about the significant changes and loss of rights we're experiencing, the feelings of helplessness that often accompany these changes, and the desire to undertake meaningful actions despite uncertainties about where to begin. These conversations have cultivated the idea for tonight's gathering. This evening, you will hear an inspiring account from Bay Area arts leaders Debbie Chinn, Sawyer Rose, Vera Maslova, and Ann Smith about their unique challenges that they've confronted, what inspired them, and the actions they continue to take to empower others and, in a sense, pay it forward. Our goal is to inspire action by building community, sharing resources, and taking action to make a substantial impact. Just a little bit of action can add up and make a big impact. So I encourage you to think that way. The panelists will share their background, stories of their unique challenges, what inspired them, and how they pay it forward for others. So without further ado, let's begin this evening. The first question is, and I'll start with Debbie because it's easy and she's right to my left, is what unique challenge have you faced?
The nonprofit arts business for about 40 years. So I started in the days when there weren't a lot of women in department head positions, and my career has been through development fundraising, volunteer management, and moving into managing director or executive director, we call it CEO, of various arts organizations. Here in San Francisco, it's Opera Parallèle, San Francisco Symphony. I worked at in genres such as opera and theater and dance, classical music, Baroque music, and so all across that spectrum, I have been very, very lucky to have had women who have moved me into the next rung of leadership. I knew nothing about this industry. Where I am now is I have moved into reinventing myself as I always have done, and which is part of my mentorship, is keep reinventing yourself. So now I am a published author. I wrote a book about my unfinished memoir about my life, and I'm in the process of adapting into a film. So talk about moving into a world that you don't know about, where you're going to need a lot of mentors. My career path has been anchored by volunteers, boards that I have worked with that have not exactly been helpful and generous and gracious, and I know you're all here to hear provocative things, and I'm here to deliver them. And being in the theater business, I have a lot of good stories that I will share with you later. I am from New York originally, so there's a little New York in me that'll come out. And I'm currently based in living in San Francisco, and I spent some time in Baltimore and Philadelphia, consulting with Philadelphia Orchestra.
I'm Sawyer Rose, and I am an artist. I've been working for many years now on a project called the Carrying Stones Project, which combines art and data visualization to talk about women's labor inequity. I'm also on the board of NCWCA with Debra. I've been on the board many, many years. I was the president for 5 years. It's a wonderful organization, and I'm so proud to serve with the women that I serve with. So the Carrying Stones Project, just to give you a brief overview so you'll understand where I'm going with my comments. So what I do is I take participants of diverse backgrounds, women and women identifying people, and I get them to collect their data and tell me how much paid labor they're doing and how much unpaid labor they're doing, and any time that they have that they're not working. I translate that into a giant, space-filling, bold sculpture that's a data visualization that you can actually read of their working hours, which, you know, most women will understand. It's so many. And then when I'm done with that, and this is where I think the project is maybe the most poignant and does the best storytelling, I take the sculpture, the pieces of the sculpture that represent the woman's hours, back to the woman who gave me the data, and I take a photographic portrait of her lifting and carrying the, yeah, the physical representation, the burden of her labor. And then I go ahead and I tell her story, and so you've got her data, her story, her picture. It humanizes it, it makes it accessible, this otherwise kind of like really dry data. So by showing this, I feel like I'm empowering her, the people who are seeing her work, the people who've never thought about the topic before, and ideally, the ripple effect goes out. And then with NCWCA, we're all about empowering women. Everything we do circles around that. So I was thrilled to be asked to speak tonight. Thank you.
I was a researcher for 10 years in philosophy and aesthetics. And I know philosophy is not that popular, but I think it's really something incredible, and I always inspire people to read more, and especially contemporary philosophers. Then I started my company, Science Me, and we are doing a lot of events, more than 300 events, where I was bringing artists, scientists, journalists, writers, film directors, and I always was believing, and the motto of the company is, and I still believe it, that artists, entrepreneurs, scientists, they're all romantics, idealists. They all believe in like they have great ideas, but they just use different language. Artists do art like scientists do like scientific work. Entrepreneurs, they do startups. And I just always feel that myself, the main mission for my life is to connect all of them together in different ways. Now I help to fundraise, like nonprofits, but also startups. I'm on the board of an incredible museum of graphic design, that is called Letterform Archive, and the founder is here. And that's a beautiful place. I invite everyone to visit. And happy also if I can be helpful to you to connect with someone you want.
I'm Ann Smith. I'm also co-chair of the Arts Forum here at the Commonwealth Club. So I've been around for about 20 years, back and forth with the Commonwealth Club. I have kind of a tripartite head. I try to be retired, and I don't succeed very well, but I've been an arts educator, teaching high school and university at different levels, from freshman to doctoral. I've also worked with mostly performing arts organizations, but have not left out the visual arts and the media arts. And I also have been very involved with boards of directors of, I'm not going to count. Let's just say I've been doing it for decades. That covers things. And I do all of this because my fundamental belief is that the arts make the world a better place. Period. End of discussion. And that's a result that I'm always looking for, and I'll talk about that as it comes up. But let's see, really covering the whole scene is something that would take a long time to do, and so I'll pop in some things as they come up. But again, and my extra welcome to the Commonwealth Club, and I'm very excited to hear what these really exciting younger people have to say.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. As you could see, we went for a variety of areas in the arts, demographics, and expertise. So with that, let's open with the first question is, Debbie, tell us about a unique challenge that you had in your field, and perhaps a little juicy tidbit on how you overcame that.
So a challenge throughout my career is that I not only was a young woman moving into this industry, I was a woman of color in an era of moving into organizations that were predominantly led by white people, a board that was led by white men, and moving into a culture that was not very hospitable to people like me. I also had, unlike most CEOs and executives, I didn't go through grad school. I didn't learn about Bach or Shakespeare or any of the industries that I landed in. I knew nothing about any of those genres when I took these jobs. I got the jobs because they were given to me and took a chance on me by women. And so the challenge of fitting in is something that I really wanted to explore because I didn't fit in. And one of the things that I've promised myself to do is I'm going to get through this. I will never sign an NDA, and I never have. So I'm going to tell you a story about one of the most worst jobs I've had. I'm not going to tell you the name, but you may guess it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. But I worked for an organization that was around for 50-some years, so well-established, led by a founder who ran it for 50 years. The board was all part of a clique, all part of a very small ensemble, run by hubris and ego. Outsiders like me just did not fit in. And this organization had, I discovered, left behind a mess, financially, infrastructure, morale. You can blame what you want on the pandemic, but it's not that. And so what I began to do is I began to expose and reveal the foibles that my predecessors, 2 men, by the way, left behind financially. And what I had to do is I had to tell the organization that it's not as rosy, it's not as clean as my predecessors said it was when they left. And they had, for many of them, they had decades. They were there for decades, 16 years, the gentleman before, decades. So they were long-standing executives in this company. You can imagine the kinds of friendships and the cliques that happened. And so I come in, an outsider in this organization, revealing what they didn't want to hear. And what I have told women as I mentor women is you must know finances. You have to learn about finances because that is what's going to get you some creds at the table. And fortunately, I've learned about finances along the way, and I was able to, like a Jack Russell Terrier, figure out exactly where my predecessor had falsified, and I will say falsified because I can prove it, what was left behind, which means more money than there actually is, right? So, and so my challenges was telling the board, and they didn't want to hear it, and what I was forced to do is I had to save the company. And the way I did is I brought a team of fixers who were all women, by the way. Mm-hmm. and women of color, by the way, who did not live in that area, by the way, who brought in a whole new idea of how to problem solve, because I was not going to find it in this organization that was so entrenched. And I successfully saved the organization. The interim finance person, who was a gentleman who was contracted with us, told me that we're going to run out of money in November. It was February. And I didn't know how, where, when, what, and I didn't know the community. And so what I did is I brought a team of fixers to figure out like how to hold the line. I did not want to cut any staff. I made a promise to the staff I would not cut the staff. I keep us intact. My integrity was to keep everybody in the center of Redwood Tree. That's the one thing that keeps the organization held together, is the staff.
So unique challenges that I faced. We've all faced a lot of challenges in our life. But in terms of feminism, misogyny, the work that I'm doing, I don't feel like I have faced any unusual challenges. I've faced all of the challenges that women face every day, and that's kind of the problem, and that was the impetus for starting the project. I would say things to my wonderful husband, and he would go, yeah, really? It was not on his radar. It was not something that occurred to him. And I had even myself not ever really thought about women's work inequity or the gendered labor issues until I had my kids. And then there was this point where I had a toddler and an infant, and a full-time job doing graphic design, my art practice, and this house and family to take care of, and I was losing it. I am not ashamed to say it was way too much. I was drowning. And so I am a researcher, and so I thought, I'm going to ask around. I'm going to start doing some research. So I started doing some computer research, getting some data. I was in the kindergarten drop-off line going, so Mom, how are you handling all this? And almost everybody I was talking to was saying, yeah, I'm drowning too. This is really difficult. So I was like, okay, if this is this hard for us, and I'm fine admitting, women who are privileged, who have the advantages, like our families are healthy, we have good partners, we live in a safe neighborhood, that this must be a story that goes much broader and much deeper. So I started really researching in earnest. And I loved what you said about scientists and artists both being dreamers, because I kind of straddle the line there. And I feel like kind of a dreamer in both categories. So what I discovered is that men and women, the inequities that we experience are so commonplace that it's almost like the fish swimming in the ocean doesn't know it's in the water. Right? It's like we are so used to it being this way that I felt like as an artist, my job would be to shine a spotlight on the problem in a way that could catch people's attention, that I could make them understand, rather than it all just kind of like zinging past. It's like we take in so much data and information these days. I felt like my job as an artist is I could really educate people and build bridges of understanding to them, even if they've never thought about the topic before. If I could grab their attention, tell them a story, light up their synapses, get them interested. So that's what I do. And then do I have a minute to tell the juicy one?
Oh, the juicy one.
She wants juice, so I've got juice. Okay, so I have recently faced a very large, actual, unusual challenge. A collaborator and I had a show that was scheduled to show at the UN, opening for Women's History Month. Some of you may have followed the saga on social media. We were canceled 2 weeks before our opening. Our work I've told you about my work, her work is no more controversial. But because of the DEI shutdown, our work is about women and equity, and they told us that, our sponsoring delegation told us that they could only show work that was positive, constructive, and forward-looking. Ours was not, and they couldn't put our name on it. It had been 2 years in the making. We had been vetted by every organization within the building that needed to vet us. And Women Empowering Women, we put out the bat signal, or the whatever signal the ladies would put out. Our communities, the art community in here and in New York rallied to help us. We found a spot in Brooklyn, a huge, gorgeous spot, and we have retitled the show Uncensored, like UN censored. and the show is up and it's closing this weekend. So that's what women can do when we support each other.
Thank you. Vera.
I love that. I was asking myself, I think the biggest, and I'm not sure it's unique, I think maybe everyone has it, the challenge is actually to overcome myself. And I don't mean like to push you to the limits, but just to understand the limit of idea of yourself, what you can do, and to create like a new idea and to believe in it, because when we believe in it, then it means we are halfway there. And just to be more concrete, I think the challenge was to move to the States because I was in Bulgaria, and then war between Ukraine and Russia happened. And I was 2 weeks hesitating what I can do. The cards were blocked. There was like all the lines at the ATM getting some cash. You needed to have vaccine to get in the States. And then I decided I just maybe try to play that game, and like thinking of playing a game always helped me. Okay, I just play. I played this day and the next day, and we will see what happened. And now I've been here for 3 years. There is an incredible couple, Brad Waters and Brit Marie, who actually became like a new family that helped me a lot to establish here. And now I see myself so differently, because when you start in the new country, it's really you start from the scratch. Doesn't matter what was in the beginning, because you're literally trying to find the milk. The milk is different ways than in Russia, like it's at the end of the store, and we have it in the beginning. And then just to start yourself, to speak to corporate world, just to that you have your skill set and it works in another country. You have so much self-doubts. Every day you feel like you're lost yourself, and then building yourself, I think that's what took a lot of courage. I was not thinking about the courage. It was more like a game. And I think I'm so grateful for the challenges, and I think anything challenges that we had, we become ourselves. And I think that's the biggest lesson, what I've learned, and I'm still learning, still on this path. And yeah, happy to share.
Thank you, Vera. Anne, the sage on the stage.
The stage on the stage. When you say unique challenges, I don't know how unique it is, but the most observable, because it's observable, challenge that I've faced is being the only one throughout life, from elementary school, being in a one-room schoolhouse. I was the only person of color there. In classes, all the way through education, being one of 5 out of 1,000, or 2 out of 300, or even where I live now, 5 out of 200 people, being the only one of my ethnic background or racial background, and sometimes of my family background, coming from preachers and teachers, where it wasn't common, or at least people thought, for African Americans to be represented in that way. So I guess I just thought that was how it was going to be, and I didn't really think too much of it. When I was 6, I asked my mother, because my parents weren't multiracial, but my father could have been anything. And I asked my mother, "Mother, why is your face brown?" And that was an interesting beginning to getting an education about being different, being unique, and how to deal with it. And that there wasn't anything, I don't know, I always grew up, there wasn't anything in particular special about being different or being the only one. So I didn't quite ever know what to do about that. But when I came to San Francisco, there were so many different elements and so many different places and people and things, and where I wasn't really the only one, you know. I ran into, you know, everybody else was just as different in their way, you know, as I was. And trying to fit in, one of the most interesting things that happened was I went in to manage a dance company, and one of the dancers who'd been with Joffrey and stuff, and my hair, okay, it's like this, been like this since 6 months after I got here, because in New York, you straighten your hair, you know, and whatever you could do with it. Here, San Francisco doesn't work for keeping hair that's not straight. It just, you know, and so I didn't know what to do about it. I was, should I keep going to the beauty parlor? And they didn't know how to deal with hair that was crinkly like mine was. So one of the dancers, it was a guy, have to admit, said, and I said, Richard, I don't know what to do. And he said, just let it be. And so I did. And that was the end of that. And thereafter, I saved a lot of money on hair. Hey, you know, all I ever had to do was get it cut.
What's inspired you? And I'd like the panelists to pivot off the story that you told about the inspiration to get you where you are now, and what inspires you to move forward. So let's just, I'm going to start randomly here with Vera.
My biggest inspiration always was people. Initially, my parents, they were scientists, people that you chat and they're coming back and support you, and that happens so many times being in the States. And I think California Bay Area is such a specific place where there's a huge culture of support because there are so many immigrants, and people know what it is to build your new life. And even even if it's like grandparents or parents that moved to the Bay Area, and sometimes I just like messaged on LinkedIn and the person say, yeah, let's get on a call and let me help you. And then this is so unique. Like I think more in Europe and Eastern Europe, sometimes when people kind of open, like we're kind of scary of that, like, oh, what that person wants from me or something. And here I always feel this openness and just show, and that's what I also, how I'm helping myself, just to connecting with other people, because I think it's sometimes not knowledge, not skill set that we had, but someone that already maybe who had this path and the journey that we are having right now, and just seeing as an example, and that's what inspires us. And I think this is great where we're living.
Thank you. Debbie.
Yeah, many things serve as inspirations as you move through your life, obviously. The one that inspires me is sometimes you have to be angry to move to some kind of inspiration. And in being in this business for such a long time, to not see forward movement by seeing there's still an inequity of women CEOs in the arts and on the board in particular. And I think the inspiration for me is in this moment of today when we see rollbacks of DEI, you know, empowering women. Women are part of DEI. And I am even more inspired to try to, you know, do what I can to impact the circle of people that I'm with so we stand firm. You know, women hold up the sky, but women also make the world. So a lot of what I have done is I've tried to, you know, hold to my moral compass about what would equity look like if I didn't work at it, and I think we'd slip back. And each one of us takes a little bit of movement in that area. But I've also seen, I'm inspired by successes. I've seen that there has been an increase in number of women on boards now. There's a company called Women on Boards that works to get more women on corporate boards. And so there's a big movement, and so I'm inspired by that. And my personal inspiration is to make sure that this doesn't happen to people coming into the workforce at the age of 30 that don't have this experience. I want to make sure that mentorship, so they don't fall into the traps that I did.
Good point. Very good point. Anne.
Let's see. Inspiration. My mother. I have to look to her because I have to tell a story about this. Won't last long. But she's had the most impact on how I live my life or who I am. She was my teacher, advisor, and later my friend, getting her doctorate in her mid-60s. So, which that's what I did too. But she did a groundbreaking dissertation on combining marriage, motherhood, and a career. Wow. And this was like in the mid-60s.
Wow.
What a topic, huh? But anyway, she was always motivated to fight back and to fight on. And I later learned, at the time of my high school graduation, I was the valedictorian of the class, and so therefore I was going to give a speech. And so she typed up my speech because people in the college track couldn't take typing. Anybody old enough to remember that? and that was for the business track. And so as she's typing up my speech, she said, I have to tell you this story. And she told me about how when she was about to graduate from high school, she had always gotten the highest grades. This was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
What year? I think the year
This
is
was,
important.
well, that would have been, probably the 20s, 30s. Let's see, I forget. 20s, I guess. Late 20s. And so she was, the family was all ready. She was going to be giving this speech. And the school board said, oh, but she's black. This was a mixed school district. We can't have a black person give the valedictory speech. So the school board, changed the grading system. Wow. This was like, a couple weeks before graduation, so that my mother would not have the highest average. And so she didn't get to give the speech she earned. So she said, well, this is my valedictory speech. You're giving it. and it was really true she was empowering me to go forward. Mm-hmm. And I've never forgot that maybe, I can't think of much else that's had that huge an impact to realize how that had happened to my mother, and it wasn't going to happen to me.
Great story. That's great.
Yeah.
And who did I miss?
Sawyer.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So my inspiration with my artwork and with the work I do on my board, it's always, I really like to make myself feel useful. And I feel the most useful when I'm teaching. I'm not a teacher in a classroom, but I do love when, like I said, I'm a researcher. I'm a slightly obsessive researcher. And when I get a bee in my bonnet,
You have to.
the family will tell you, oh God. I get really excited about what I found out. And I want to share it with everybody because maybe because I'm excited, maybe because I'm outraged, whatever is going on, whatever I've found out, I want y'all to know it too. So that's what I'm doing with the Carrying Stones project. So what I'm teaching with Carrying Stones is not just what the labor landscape looks like for women, but you have to look at it intersectionally too, right? So I'm bringing in but did you know that, if it looks like this for white women, then, it's gonna affect women of color even more, and women in low-wage jobs even more, women with caring responsibilities, so either children or elders or both, which is what's happening more and more for the millennial generation. So I feel like I'm empowering people, giving them the knowledge to let them know what this world looks like and what kind of game they're playing. The playing field is not level, and people should know that. And then hopefully I give them an opportunity to think, well, I've heard this woman's story and this woman's story, and this one was about women in academia, and this one was about women in professional roles, women who have incarcerated loved ones. I mean, the topics go on, and I'm hoping that they'll reflect and say, okay, well, where do I stand in the scheme of things? Where does my partner stand in the scheme of things? And so in addition to doing the sculptures about the individual women, I have a few participatory events that I do, and a participatory sculpture that people can participate in. So one of them, you get to look at your own data, and then you get to carry that many pounds of stones, the same number of hours that you work that week, and get your photograph taken, just like the women in the project. And then another is a community co-created sculpture where you get to estimate your hours, put the number of hours as stones, because carrying stones is the name of my project, into these tubes in the sculpture, and you see how it builds up. So those are a lot of fun. They're interactive, people have a great time. I've done some of the events in like a beer garden, everybody's having a drink and having a good time. But but hopefully it starts a conversation, and that's what I'm all about, is starting a conversation.
I just have to add to this conversation without any background details. But when I get told I can't do it or I won't be able to do it, I blow the numbers out of the water. So challenge is what feeds my energy. Now on to the last question. I couldn't resist that.
Already?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're on to the last question. So the last question is, talk about how you've achieved success. We've all broken different barriers. I'm sure all of us at some point in time have been the only woman in the room. And that's certainly been my experience. And so how do you pay it forward? How do you give an example of how you pay it forward for other women, and not just women, but the millennial generation, the generation that's actually going to take it over and hopefully right some of the things that are going on right now? Debbie?
Sure. Well, I think mentorship is an obvious thing. As I move through my career, I build mentorship circles. I'm mentored even still. And I think the mentorship is not age-wise, but it's about expansion. And so passing on what you've learned and encouraging young women and women who are probably coming back into the workforce after time off. It is a hard acclimation to come into, so we're in it together. And solidarity, I think, is very, very important to anchor us as we move through the uncertainties of the workforce and life and the world. But mentorship circles, you build them as you go. I have a wonderful network of arts colleagues. They're here today that help pay it forward. I learn from them and I pass it on. It's sort of like it's like the true ecology of what will make our industry stronger. I also, because I'm in the theater business, what I do is I mentor young women about how to do body language, how to speak, how to hold your space, how to not cross your arms, all the stuff you probably see. But also, because we don't really converse that much, because we're on text, we're on emailing, I find that we've lost the art of diction and dialect. So I encourage women to think about the timbre of your voice, how to hold it down. Don't talk like a little girl, because then you'll be treated like a little girl. And some of these things are nuances that I find for the generation coming in. We don't teach that in school anymore. I also think that mentorship is so important by joining a board. Joining a board and make a difference to get on that board. Because if you're on that board, you will make equity part of the ethos of the organization. So I would encourage those who are on boards, make the opportunities to bring more women onto boards. Younger women, you don't have to be of a certain age to be on a board, but I think you should be a certain gender to be on the board to get equality. And there are many, many boards that are not looking for you to make a contribution to be on the board. We've sort of gone away from that in the spirit of inclusion and equity. So I would suggest join a board for experience and keep moving the way through it. The other thing that I encourage women to do is join an audit committee. It's the most boring thing, but it's also the easiest thing. You don't have to do very much. But I'll tell you why, because if you want to join a corporate board, what I learned is the audit committee is what will put your resume on a bit of a stellar course, because that's a standing committee of a corporate board. So give that some thought.
Good suggestions. Sawyer.
Oh, I'm so glad you called on me next, because everything you just said is amazing. And I'm going to talk about mentorship too.
Yeah, good girl.
So,
For it.
yes, that was amazing, and everything you said just really tracks with everything that I feel about mentorship. So, through the NCWCA board that I'm on, I've been lucky enough to be able to start a mentorship initiative with the help of my mentors and my board, like not by myself, all these women coming together to make it happen. So I really wanted to have a mentorship program, because I feel like the arts is a weird industry and there are a lot of rules, and most of them are unwritten rules. And I found that when I was, younger in my career, I was going to all these like seminars of like how to get in a gallery, and they'd tell you one thing and then another would tell you the other thing, and I never knew what was going on. So flash forward, I've had great success with my Carrying Stones project. I've learned so much over like the decade that I've been working really successfely, and I feel like, hey, I've got to put the ladder down and bring some people up with me. It's a common, metaphor. But if I didn't share that knowledge, I wouldn't feel right about it, honestly. So we started these two things. One is Bay Area Art Stars, and one is a mentorship program. Bay Area Art Stars is like speed dating, networking, but for mentorship. So we bring in every year 5 Bay Area luminaries in the arts, so like somebody from a gallery and a museum and a successful artist, whatever. And you get to go around table to table, meet them, get real FaceTime with them, get their card from them. And so that's like really sort of spreading the mentorship wide, like casting as big a net, getting information to as many people as we can. And then that leads into like, hey, if you liked, this event, apply to our mentorship program. And we can have, we do 5 mentees every year. We have a long list of people applying. We have 5 amazing mentors every year. And they get a 6-month run where they get one-on-one mentorship. And then ideally, they will take that information and disseminate it to their friends, to their colleagues. And I think it's one of the most profoundly, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm really proud of it. It makes me feel good to run it every year. And I've seen such success come out of our mentorship program. It's been so worth it.
Use the example of Ruby Tut.
Oh, Rupi Tut.
I'm going to come back to you.
Shout out Rupi C. Tut, who was one of our mentees a few years ago and has won the SF MoMA SICA Award, among many other prestigious things. She's an amazing artist. She deserves it all. We like to take that much credit, just that much. But yeah, we're so proud.
Debbie, I want to go back to you. I asked for an example from Sawyer, and I didn't have a chance to ask you. Can you give an example of, from your mentorship or being on the board of someone that, achieved an award or broke through a barrier that they didn't think was possible?
Yeah, there are many unsung heroes on the board. It's hard. First of all, boards are intimidating. If you have not been on one and you go to a board meeting, it's a little intimidating. I brought one of my very junior staff members to a board meeting thinking, listen and learn, and she was petrified. I didn't realize, though she was shaking, and she said, they scare me. And I said, why? She said, because they're all so powerful. Isn't that interesting? Now, she's a woman of color. I said, you own the power, too. So my mentorship with her was to illuminate, take the credit for the things that you do. She was very self-effacing. And one of the great success stories is that she was so inspired by her nervousness. that she joined a very small board where she's like a big fish in a small pond. And you could just see her transform. And she said, you know what, I won the Volunteer of the Year award on this board. And so this confidence building thing, it just starts with one step. I didn't realize by bringing her as a civilian into a board meeting, that fright would be her impetus to figure it out. I mean, we are all centered in courage, everybody. You know, we all come out of the womb like this, just so you know. Look at a baby. They're like screaming and hollering and yelling. They're not afraid of anything. That's kind of who we are. We sort of forget that we were like this. And so, you know, I would never have thought that this track would have her be proud to get a Volunteer of the Year for her small little board. But what has this inspired her to do? It's inspired her to think about another board to join and to encourage more people. So the circle begins there. So you never know when you can make a difference with a young person. You just never know.
Thank you. Vera.
I think one of the biggest challenges was also that I realized it's so hard to ask help, because I was used that I'm helping everyone, and when I just needed to message or to ask, like just my mouth was shut, like I couldn't push the button. And I'm realizing that there are we're always open to give help, and there for so many people it's so hard to ask for help. And I think that's how mentorship is very important, and I see that with others. So I've started doing dinners in my place. I love to feed people, and I think that's where people share some food and then just become more open and more thoughtful conversations. So it's kind of building maybe deeper connections, and that's where people can share more things. And I'm also always, my brain is thinking, oh, if that person wants this thing, then maybe I can connect to another person. There was a discussion that artists said that, oh, there was one art piece that was sent to the space, and I said, do you want some? Like, I have a friend who has satellites. He always has space in the satellites. Like, I'm happy to connect you to. So it's a kind of always like my brain is working, and in the way, how can I be helpful? What is person searching for? And that's, I think, when it's just like the ripples every day. I think you can't change the world, but I think you can do something small every day, and then you see that it's also coming back to yourself.
Very good. Yep, you throw that stone in the pond and it ripples out.
Yes, stones.
Carrying
Everything
stones.
comes to the stones.
Everything comes to the stones. And
Can I add to?
Yes.
Okay, well, Maya Angelou said many wonderful things. One of my favorites is, when you learn, teach. When you get, give. And so this was very, very inspirational, but also it is something to move forward on. As a teacher, since the age of 21, you learn through the whole time of teaching. So now I'm probably the best teacher I've ever been, because I have and I'm working in a different way. It's all online. You know, we have to Zoom to check, but the gathering together of what another person is bringing to the table and helping them to gather more and then express their life in a better way, there's nothing more rewarding than that. And that's what I regard as the essence of good teaching, and why I still love to teach, and why I still do and get paid for it. But I think that's crucial, that it's another sense of mentoring, of gathering in what's going forward, who's going forward, and pushing them out the door.
if you could tell your younger self one thing from your perspective now, what would that be? Sawyer, I'm going to start with you.
All right. Anybody who has met me for any short amount of time in the arts, my favorite expression is the rising tide lifts all ships.
Oh, yeah.
And I have found more success and happiness in life and in my job knowing that you're saying you give and it comes back to you. It really does. And it not just, tit for tat, but really like it brings you back joy and it brings you back people and it brings you back connections, networking connections. You put it out there in a positive way and it builds your life for you.
Vera.
I think that you're doing everything right. I think this self-doubt that you always have, this inner critics, and I think just saying, no, you're right, just keep going, keep enjoying.
Okay. Anne, the sage on the stage.
The sage on the stage, no pressure, right?
No pressure, right?
I don't really want to add anything. I'll turn it over to Debbie. I bet she does.
Well, I think I would say to my my younger self, which would be 20-something or 30-something, is don't worry. One day you're not going to be alone. Don't worry. You're gonna the world, like to Anne's point, you're not going to be alone. There will be more people that will look like you in the workforce, in your communities. It will happen, and that's what I would say to my younger self.
And I guess I would tell my younger self to have a sense of humor. Don't be so serious about things because it will change.
Right.
It will change. And if you can laugh your way through it, then you're going to grow up much less stressed.
Yes.
So here's a couple questions from the audience. Okay. This is from someone aged 25. Thank you for putting your age here because I think this is great. You are the future. How do you balance in your early career, quote, putting in the time, end quote, without giving too much unpaid labor as a woman and balance the enjoyment of life? So, Anne, I want to start with you on that one.
I give credit to being trained as a teacher because one of the things that you have as a teacher is a lesson plan book. And you've got to organize everything and include everything that you're going to be doing in your week, your month, your day, including fun, including entertainment, including education, including issues, problems, living, home, all those things. And so the lesson plan book helped me learn how to organize my life. And people always are commenting, well, you're so organized. But that's because that was brought forth as something really important to do. And it is. Sit down, take a book, take a plan book or whatever, and start putting down when you're going to do what. And it really helps. Soon you'll be able to figure out how much you really need, how much time you really need to get stuff done. And I find it very helpful.
Did that say unpaid? She was unpaid?
Too much unpaid labor.
Okay, if I were mentoring you, I would coach you on how to ask to not get paid.
Yeah.
I would coach you to demand what you should get paid. You should not do that. So.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, well, there are different kinds of unpaid labor, and this
Yeah.
is what I do. This is my wheelhouse. I'm like, ooh, unpaid labor.
You'd like to.
So in the workplace, I absolutely
Yeah.
agree. And I love what you said about organization. My advice, especially to young couples, is lay it all out in advance. Whose responsibilities are whose. Don't get in the situation where you've been in a relationship, you're now living with this person, and you've fallen into a rut. Now you want to rearrange it. Lay it out going in. Like, here's, you're working this much for pay and I'm working this much for pay. I will do this amount of unpaid labor in our home, you will do this amount. So it doesn't have to be the same thing, even Steven, just, comparable amounts. And so really planning it out and planning in your fun, planning in knowing that, you're going to want some time alone. I love that. Yeah. Do it from the start.
Okay.
Deborah, may I maybe
Yes,
ask
you may.
I think, yeah, there was the second part about enjoyment. And what I always feel that people think, like, there are a lot of advices, do what you enjoy doing. But I think you can see it from different perspective. Do it with the person that you enjoy. So it's just maybe you find someone that you adore and admire, and you can actually tell them, hey, can I work for you? And maybe that'd be unpaid. But if you spend 10,000 hours with the person that you admire, then you kind of really set in some way, because that person would advise you, rather that person would probably start paying and everything. So sometimes I think we get enjoyment through the time, because it's like when we learn language in the beginning, we can't really speak, so we can't enjoy it fully. But when you really learn it, then you understand, wow, that's such a beautiful language, and you can talk, and you understand the movies in the language. And I think the same time with enjoyment. So maybe the short-term enjoyments should determine like the long-term way.
And there is, there is value in that education. There is value, albeit sometimes that learning is painful. I, like you, didn't get an MBA, but ran multi-global organizations at one point. And there's tremendous value in the education that you get from, kind of toughing it through things, learning how to pivot, learning how to deal when somebody says, well, why don't you get the coffee? And being able to, remain in and you can practice building, having, and showing your power. Okay, here's another question. What are strategies for maintaining, while we're talking about power, what are strategies for maintaining your power and sense of confidence in the face of the political chaos?
I think solidarity. I mean, I'm also a hopeless helpaholic. I mean, I think that there's, in advocacy and activism, you sort of gain your power. One of the things I also reminded that sometimes when we're so distressed at work, we're demoralized, we feel that we don't like it there. And I found that for me, I got power when I went home and I updated my resume. I figured, that I have control over that. And I realized I'm actually pretty good. I'm actually pretty marketable. So, part of what you have to do is just figure out like how you can, even that small gesture, just remind yourself of things that aren't on your resume, rewrite your bio, have someone help you with it. But I think that in this climate that we're in, we all got to work together.
Yeah.
We're not going to get it if we're alone, but that's why mentorship and solidarity and gatherings like this to help each other I think about the flag of Iwo Jima. Like I keep thinking that we have to get this DEI flag back up again. And I think that's the visualization I have. If we don't fight and take a stand, then the stand will take over us, is how I look at it.
Good point. Sawyer?
I would just say do something. Yeah. You said something before. Every small step of action that you take is worthwhile. Every step that you take toward justice is a worthwhile step. You don't have to start a mentorship program. You don't have to go, make a grand gesture. Do something, either, something in your workplace, change something at home, do something for your, to advocate for yourself, or, find an organization that's doing the work that you want to see done and give them your time, talent, treasure, right? 3 ways to participate. Everybody can do that.
Vera?
I totally agree. I think confidence comes through the steps and doing something. And I know it's so unclear, like the future, especially now, but I think if you do every day something small, I know, for example, there are some people who are independent visa and they can't get work, right? But you can do volunteering. And when you start helping others, then you also, this confidence is coming back to you. And that's what I see, I'm volunteering Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and my little one, like, we talk, and then I see how I'm saying something, and then in 6 months he's saying the same thing. So it's kind of, I think, consistency in doing these small things. And even the hardest part, if we do something, we don't see the results, but really results sometimes coming in 1 year. And just like to pat yourself, saying, I've done great job today, and tomorrow I'll do that, and just be patient with yourself.
And go ahead and join it, be part of a network. Although she didn't win the election, the American public learned that black women have a networking ability that's quite phenomenal. I'll never forget after that first or second weekend when Biden stepped down, and that came this report of the Divine Nine, which is black sororities, but it could be any network, any group. But you gather your network together. You go out and find them. You make them if you don't have one, and you act. So these women got together, raised that. Well, there happened to be about 4 million of them all told, but they raised millions of dollars in 3 hours. You say, what? These are just ordinary people. Well, ordinary people can make extraordinary networks, and they shared values of community service and understanding, and the importance of scholarship and getting things done. And when they came back with the reports of that weekend and fundraising, well, Kamala Harris's candidacy was viable. There was no denying that it was going to be a really interesting candidacy. So I think getting your network going is really important, and you can make your own.
We could start tonight.
Huh? You can start tonight.
We could start tonight. These are all really good points. Before we close, I'm going to leave with one thought, one strategy. We all have amazing talents. Take an inventory of yourself. Look at your talents. Don't listen to what people around you that don't support you are saying. Value yourself. When you feel that value, then you want to share it with others, and that helps build the network. My favorite comment of all time. This is Governor Ann Richards. Do you know which one I'm going to say? Who knows? Okay. She was known for her one-liners. And in this one, she talked about the superiority of women. She said, look at Ginger Rogers. She did everything that Fred Astaire did, except backwards and in high heels. Thank you, Ann. And on that note, I want to thank our esteemed panel, Debbie Chinn, Sawyer Rose, Vera Maslova, Ann Smith, for sharing your stories and your inspiration. We invite everyone to tune in to the commonwealthclub.org at any time. At some point, we will have a link up on the video of tonight. And on behalf of the member-led Arts Forum, and you, Ann, we are delighted, I'm thrilled that you joined us this evening during the Commonwealth Club 121st year of enlightened public discussion. So the questions to continue the conversation during the reception: what resonated with you and why? If you were able to take action, what would you do? And if you could do something now, what would it be? On that note, thank you all for your participation, attention, thoughtfulness, This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Debra.
Deborah. Thank you, Deborah.